Good afternoon. Today, at least one day earlier than tomorrow, I am talking to you about the importance of World Environment Day. Well, most people, or at least some people, would know that World Environment Day began to be observed from 1973 June 5th onwards. There is a specific significance for 5th June, and that is the previous year in 1972 in June, or between June 5 and 16, the United Nations Environment Program held what is called the Stockholm Conference. Well, where the member countries assembled and expert opinions about the need to save the earth environment was underscored innumerable times. And the following year in 73, the UNEP, under the auspices of the United Nations Environmental Program, World Environment Day 1973 was celebrated across the world with the slogan, One Earth. Now, it is 2023, and it is, say, 50 years hence, or 51 years, if you want to say it that way. Today, this year's slogan is Beat Plastic Pollution. It's a wonderful initiative by the World Environment Day organizers globally. In fact, every year, but for the COVID years, World Environment Day was observed with a slogan appropriate to that particular year or appropriate to the Earth's situation, planet Earth's environmental status was chosen. And now, beat plastic pollution. Well, beat plastic pollution. To tell you the truth, even pollution is becoming very hard to beat. For example, take up Kerala. Look at Kerala's situation. Look at the waste management in the capital city of Thrivikramji. After the closure of Pope's Green Initiative in Thrivikramji, and once it was transferred to Thrivikramji City Corporation, we all know that the initiative, it is a wonderful one, and probably an example for the entire state of Kerala, other cities in Kerala, that had a miserable winding up. Well, who led want to get the thing wound up? That is actually a useless question to examine or seek an answer for. It is actually a snowballing off. People with not much to do, let me say so. I just joined this movement that we don't want anything related to waste in Vilappilshala. Okay, leave it there. But then what happened? After the Vilappilshala was closed, several stopgap measures to convince the city dwellers that the city administration is working hard to provide clean city or green city. So many slogans. Inventing a slogan is not very difficult because you take some catchwords, that's all. And there is a machinery of media and word of mouth that works very hard in order to sustain this slogan in the minds. Then came vermicomposting. Well, then also there was a miserable failure. Anything, in other words, it is a very hard task to keep a mind, a person's mind, wedded to a certain philosophy. Politics aside, or politics probably is something which is a very rewarding profession and a lifelong profession and a very rewarding profession so that people really are wedded to that ideology. But not so much about science, because science is on constant evolution. Principles of science are on constant evolution in the sense that as and when new data comes, well, we have to refine our theory, we have to refine our approach, we have to redesign our facilities. So, my point here is that the waste management is a very tough task. Water pollution, treating water polluted by various mechanisms, right from household to industry. All these also are very tough tasks. In other words, they need a lot of money, capital investment, and also a good, viable, as well as sound technology. And when it comes to technology, our problem in India and naturally in Kerala is that we want to invent our own technology. When we invent our own technology, well, actually what we do is we water down a Western technology and then make a claim that this is the native technology developed in such and such a place, in such and such a town, country, lab, etc. So that is actually a very harmful approach. We can definitely indigenize a technology to fit into the climate zone of the area in question, but not the technology per se. So, coming back to the plastic, it's a big question. Plastics are everywhere, right from the facial makeup, toothpaste that we use every day, to huge plastic molded material. Look at the water tank. Everywhere in Kerala, in all the towns and small towns, obviously in the rest of India also, the rooftop has a black giant. Now, for some reason, of late, the black giant has evolved into a white giant, a white cylinder sitting up there on the roof, which is actually for storage of water. Well, the problem was, when the black giant came into the market, there was no knowledge no technology to make the black color other than black. So whatever that was available by way of technology, that was used to, cast those tanks. As soon as new technology or new material, new additive came to the knowledge, and where it comes from? Only from the West. And that entered into our industry, and we have the white giant sitting on the roof. Well, there is a good thing about the white giant sitting on the roof, because the water stored in the tank will not get heated up due to sunshine or sun's heat. Like it will heat up the water that is stored in the black tank, black colored tank. So that is a plastic, that then, of course, those people who have traveled by airplane, they should, and they will probably know, or may not know that, most of the interior decor of all the aeroplanes, passenger planes, are made of plastic. And modern day automobiles, cars, passenger cars, are largely made of plastic components. In other words, plastic in the sense, the fender, the body, in order to lessen the weight of the automobile so that higher road mileage is available or can be derived out of a unit volume of diesel or petrol, whatever. So plastic is there everywhere, and then of course plastic bags. We are Kerala കണ്ട് ഉണരുന്ന നന്മ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന the Milma slogan. That bag also is plastic. So plastic has come to replace a huge volume of daily usable and used materials in all forms in our country. Not only in our country, all over the world. When you look at the plastic question, where do this plastic come from? The plastic is actually sourced from crude oil. Well, 89.9 million barrels per day of crude is pumped from the bowels of the earth. That is the daily crude oil production. And 4% of this oil goes into the plastic industry. When we say plastic, most of us will realize only certain things that we come across every day when we go for shopping, when we go to a fast food store, or when we order a fast food meal. Then this material, our food stuff, comes in by very well packed packages, and packages are one way or other made of plastic. And of course, one of the ways, what is the harm in the plastic? Well, unfortunately, plastic is indestructible for centuries. At least in the Anthropocene, that is the human-dominated geologic era, human processes-led geologic era, is called Anthropocene. In the Anthropocene, now, one of the banalities of Anthropocene is the accumulating plastic litter, plastic garbage, plastic waste. For example, everywhere you go in a waste dump, the most attractive part of the waste dump is the light reflecting silvery plastic bag interspersed with the black colored wastes, the humus-rich waste. That was so in Vulappilsala also. I have very good pictures of the plastic littered in the waste at Vulappilsala. It's so in Brahmapuram, everywhere. What do we do? The problem is we use this plastic, buy a new shirt or a trouser or anything brand new that will lead to an unwanted, that is a quote-unquote, unwanted supply of some plastic material. Buy a refrigerator, it comes with a plastic cover. There is no need to have a plastic cover, but the manufacturer wants to make sure that the piece you buy or we buy does not acquire any scratch while handling. So, what do we do? Well, danger of the plastic is, one, it is not easily destroyed, not biodegradable. It cannot be broken down to individual components. Well, of course, there is biodegradable plastic and semi-biodegradable plastic, etc. And let us keep that in mind, that they degrade in the sense they break it down into smaller pieces. Whereas the bigger, other type of the plastic, that does not break down into smaller pieces by any kind of biochemical or physico-chemical process. Whereas the biodegradable means it will break down into smaller pieces in the Earth's environment. But still, there is plastic. And of course, there is a technology. There are technologies out of which we can separate the constituents within the bioplastic, and then we can make use of them for any downstream manufacturing process. But when we come to the real plastic, we are helpless actually. Okay, then what happens? Where does all the plastic go from our household? It goes to the street. We have the drainage ditches, and our monsoons will take these plastic bags along with the other sediment or other silt, clay, or gravelly pieces down through the side drain to the first order stream to the final river, major river, and that river will take all this plastic and as well as accompanying sediment down to the ocean. Well, there is a problem in the ocean. If this plastic can survive, plastic material can survive on shore, on land, for hundreds of years, several centuries. The same thing is true as far as the oceans are concerned. And as far as the ocean is concerned, ocean gets macroplastic and microplastic. That's the interesting part. Microplastic has a very large range of diameter, and it is so that actually covers macro also. And the micro means, I made a mention earlier about the plastic beads. Well, what is a plastic bead? All the, the what is called many of the beauty adding creams or facial creams, cleansing creams, all these have microplastic beads, as they are called, beads. These beads slightly abrade of the epidermis, and then of course by that process keeps the skin young and healthy looking. So once the process is done, again these micro beads get into the stream from the wash basin down the drain, finally to for example, there is a water treatment plant in the town, to the water treatment, but nothing happens to the microplastic. But they are very minute, and that is micron size particles they are, and these particles finally reach the ocean. Then again is sunscreen, as it is called, very uncommon in India, but the Western world uses lot of sunscreen because day before yesterday or so, the summer in the northern hemisphere began with what is called Memorial Day in the United States. That is the last Monday or so of what is called the month of May is celebrated as Memorial Day. And that day onwards, officially it is summertime, and people enjoy sunning outside, getting some sun tan, etc. So in order to avoid sunburn, there is a cream applied to the body. But that cream also has microplastic. Well, what is the fate ultimately of the microplastic or anything that we use? Finally, through the soil, to the river, to the drains, to the river, and across the ocean, across the land area. Even if it is used, this stuff is used in Madhya Pradesh, and finally it will go to the Bay of Bengal. Or, for example, the other way also, Narmada or whatever river, that will carry to the Lakshadweep Sea. So, what happens to these microplastics in the ocean? They survive their lifelong. Whose life is the biggest question? Is it our life or the life of the plastic. The plastics, because plastic is indestructible. So what happens is, this will be easily ingested by the organisms, marine organisms. See, one of the highly diverse environment on the planet Earth is the marine realm. The marine, for example, the coral reefs and coastal ocean. Of course, coral reef is also found in the coastal ocean only. These are the areas where very high biodiversity, marine biodiversity occurs. And these material, whatever we call plastic, micro or macro or whatever, finally ends up in the ocean and into the gut of the what is called our marine organism. Is it a good sign? Of course not, because finally these are harmful to the organisms themselves, and the new knowledge is only coming in. People have raised red flags on the overabundance of plastic waste in the ocean. The advantage is it will not sink into the ocean, the turbulence in the ocean. Because of the turbulence in the ocean, these things will float. And then what happens? It becomes a slow poison for the organisms. And then it can even result in a lower biodiversity among the marine organisms. Now, what we do about it? Well, of course, we have to reach a stage called a zero plastic waste. It is not zero carbon now anymore. It is there. Zero carbon is the target by 2050 or 2065 or 2070, whatever. That the Conference of Parties, the Paris Conference as it is called, they have agreed upon. Similarly, now what is essential is a zero plastic deadline, a zero plastic environment. How is it possible? Well, it is very, very difficult in this sense. Only by recycling we can ameliorate the present glut of the garbage, plastic litter in all the continents. India is no exception. The Indian awareness about the plastic is definitely far behind the rest of the developed countries in the world. And of course, there might be confusion about whether India is a developed country or not. But at any rate, well, we are developed, absolutely no doubt. We have a fourth place in respect of consumption of crude oil. We are fourth, behind China. Well, of course, China is in the range of 19 billion or billion barrels, etc., whereas we are only 4.9 or 5 billion barrels, etc. only. There is a big gap between us and China in all respects, in our achievements, in our productions, even in our quality of education. They are far ahead of us. So, how do we do that? Go about it? Well, now, as far as India is concerned, as far as Kerala is concerned, we have a new enactment or a new law in force which has banned a 35 micron or smaller thickness plastic fabric, plastic bag or whatever. Any plastic smaller than 35 micrometer thickness, 35 micron thickness is banned from use. Well, that means anything better than 35 is still available for use and consumption. The thicker this plastic is, the harder it is to destroy. In the sense, natural processes of wind transport, water transport, and those things will not affect quickly. Another thing is, chemically it is indestructible. That is the whole problem. That is exactly the problem. Chemically indestructible. Our nature does not have a warehouse of very severely acting, intensely acting chemicals. In other words, we have chemicals. Natural acids are there, humic acid is there, so many others are there, so many combinations of chemical elements or ions are there. Unfortunately, they are very weak. They are long acting. They will stay around and work on it very slowly, and it will therefore take a long duration to destroy the plastic. You might say that even rock is destroyed. Yes, rock is destroyed, rock minerals are destroyed or transform them to soil. But then it takes 1,000,000 years. But as far as plastic is concerned, if we wait for 1,000,000 years, we will be in great trouble. So what is the solution? Stop using plastic. How do you do it? Well, say no to plastic. That is the only solution. That is exactly this year's slogan is. When you go for shopping, to buy anything, what the shopkeeper will wrap it up in some kind of a plastic bag. Or if you go to a fast food restaurant and if you want to take home, then there also it is wrapped up. You buy a new shirt, the costlier the shirt, it will have many wrappings. And one wrap will be definitely a plastic wrap. So, what do we do? Well, and look at the buildings, wiring in the building. Take, for example, wiring. The ducts through which wire is pulled, the electricity wires are pulled through. These are all plastic. And, of course, these are also loci of fire risk. In other words, the encasement of the copper wire or the material that is encasing the copper wire, that has a plastic element. And not only that it has also some deleterious chemical ions and elements that might even affect our health during a fire hazard only. Therefore, there is a suggestion that in public buildings, better quality wiring and without using these plastic, dangerous plastics. Yeah, what is wrong in that usage? Dangerous plastic. Anything is dangerous when it harms us, humans. So that should be avoided. I don't know whether there are laws and rules and enactments regarding this, but anyway, our slogan should be bring in home every day less volume of plastic, less number of plastic bags. Better to carry the good old cotton bag, shopping bag. That is the ideal thing, because you can carry it in your trouser pockets or in your briefcase or in your backpack and buy everything from fish, right from fish to sweets in that bag. And we can buy that process. Then make sure before we buy anything that looks like plastic, make sure that whether there is a substitute for it. And if there is a substitute, we have to go for it. Otherwise, unless we learn a new way of life to consume less volume of plastic, only then we will be able to beat this beast with a heavy stick. Thank you. Enjoy World Environment Day 2023. Thank you again.